Well, hello, everybody. Great to touch base with you. I want to talk to you today about a very misunderstood part of ourself called our shadow self. And my shadow self was coming a lot up over the weekend. I noticed because I was very tired. And when you are tired and feeling run down, your shadow self can pop out. So let's look at our shadow self. What is lurking in the shadows? Well, our shadow self is that side of our personality that we hide and actually do not like to admit is really there at all. We can be very ashamed of this part of ourselves. And everybody on the planet has a shadow self. So, you're not unique. You're very common. It's very popular, but it's also an essential, a very useful part of yourself. So the term shadow was popularized by the famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, and Jung regarded the shadow as the uncivilized and primitive side of human beings. So our shadow is often perceived as some dark or weak sort of part of ourselves, which is why we try to hide it away and deny that it exists. However, really, in order to fully understand ourselves, we need to recognize and understand this part of ourselves. And when we do, we can begin to realize that our shadow can actually empower us rather than disempower us, which it can sometimes feel like. So today, I want to help you embark upon a healthy and respectful, compassionate a relationship and an appreciative relationship with your shadow. And yes, I am wearing Rudolph headband. I've just realized because I did a Christmas video for my new Christmas song release. And so it's Christmas. So we have a bit of cheer in our shadow. Maybe this is me. Maybe this is my shadow self. Real Rudolph, shadow Rudolph. I think that works, don't you? So how do we recognize our shadow? So our shadow may reflect the parts of ourselves that we, that we really don't want to admit it as are there, like things like lazy, when we feel lazy or sad or controlling, want to be right, feel like raging, feel really resentful, really defensive, all those type of feelings, the unconscious part of ourselves, which is the shadow. So it starts with an unconscious self within ourselves, and so it takes some effort into bringing some conscious awareness to it. But once we do become consciously aware of it, we can recognize our shadow. And it's often, this shadow part of ourselves is often the key driver of our behavior, because within the shadow lives the things that are most important to us, things like being heard, being recognized, being important, being of value, those sort of things, belonging. So you can use things like journaling to uncover your shadow. Is really powerful. When you talk about, if I went back and talked about my weekend and how I was really tired and I was quite emotional, just drained, and all this stuff started coming up. If I journaled about that, it would reveal a lot about my shadow. So you can also look for what you're constantly blaming others for. That's a really good way to recognize your shadow, for it to come out into the light. Think about what irritates you about other people. That's usually where your shadow is hiding as well. So blaming others or thinking about what constantly irritates you will direct you immediately to your shadow. So think about what gets you angry fast. I know I've got some real hot triggers at the moment, going through a bit of a phase, I think, of learning. And when I think about them, I can feel just the anger or the frustration welling up inside. One of the things, an experience I had recently, was I was on the phone to my health insurer, who I just spent many hours sitting and talking to their consultant last week. And I came back to change the plan to the plan that we discussed. And then the health insurer had changed the whole suite of offerings. So it made all of that discussion irrelevant. And, my shadow self was really angry because I wanted to be right. I wanted it to be the same, things to stay the same, and to have certainty, to be sure. And nothing sets your brain off like being uncertain, does it? And I wanted to be right. That was the main thing that drove it, because I had sat down there that time and I was really clear on what I wanted, and I wanted it to be right, to be that way, you know. And my shadow self just came out of the blue, because I was a little bit tired, and kind of snuck up on me. I didn't expect it. So that was a really vivid example for me, that I experienced just recently. So it's when you're in that moment of extreme frustration or anger or despair, that's when your shadow will show itself. So what is it that you want in that moment? You've got to ask. So in that moment, all I wanted was to be right. I just wanted me to be right. I'd invested all this time. I wanted to be right. That's what I wanted. So there's another example I have in my home environment where the drawers sometimes get left open in the kitchen, right? So that triggers me, because I'm like, how hard is it to close the drawers, you know? And what I want at that time is I just want peace. I just want things to flow. So that's what my shadow self wants, you know. It just wants peace and things to flow. And it wants things to be done my way, you know, again, wanting to be right. So I have this theme that my shadow has. So a great question to reveal your shadow is, what is it I want most at that point when I'm most angry or most frustrated? What is it that I want most right now when I'm at that point? And you can just reflect back on a situation and ask yourself that question. What is it that I want most right now when I'm most angry or most frustrated? And it could be anything like I just want to be right, to being heard, to being recognized. And then a good other question to ask is, what does, in this situation with me, being right get me? Or for you, it might be, what does being in control get me? Or what does, being most intelligent get me? And I find what I really want is to be heard. You know, at the end of the day, I want to be heard. With the kitchen drawers, I keep talking about putting them in. So I want that to be heard. With the health insurance thing, I was just about to tell you their name, and I probably should. PM me for that one. So what I really want is to be right. And again, all I really want is peace, because when I rang them, I was actually in the middle of something. I thought it'd be a quick call, and I just wanted things to flow. So it's a little bit like the drawers. I just want things to flow and to be peaceful and for things just to flow easily. So that gives me some information about my golden value, which is peace. You know, I love things to be peaceful, and I love things to flow. Maybe it's even love, you know, that's my golden value. If you want recognition or something like that, that might be your golden value. So there's always the opposite to our shadow value. So being recognized, needing to be heard, the golden value might be love. So the answer for you could have been control and order, being in the shadow, and peace and security being golden value. But the golden value can disguise the shadow value of control. So that golden value of security or love or whatever it is trying to disguise the need for control. So I found I get triggered with this when I'm not doing what I want, when I'm tired, when I'm not listening to myself, when my life is not being what I want it to be. So we really resist being happy because we judge ourselves for wanting things like wanting to be heard, or wanting to be right, or wanting to be smart and really intelligent, or wanting to be liked, all those perceived shameful shadow values. But quite often our shadow values are running the show anyway, and we're not aware that they actually need fulfilling. So what I encourage you to do over the next few days is to liaise with and understand your shadow a little bit better. Ask yourself, what gets me frustrated quickly? And what do I blame others for? So what gets me angry fast? What am I blaming others for? Then ask yourself, what do I really want at that point of greatest frustration? What will having that give me? And then ask yourself, how can I bring this to myself now? So the feeling of, for me, it was peace, and that need to be right. You know, how can I bring being right to myself now? You know, how can I bring that peace in? And that'll start to shift your understanding with yourself. You can have a dialogue with your shadow self. Just think of it as your 7-year-old CEO running the show, and you really need to get back into running the show and it serve you a little bit better. So that's your shadow self. Another thing you can ask is, how will the tasks I am completing serve that part of me? So serve the need to be right, serve the need to be in control, those type of things. So you can acknowledge your shadow value that way. So acknowledging your shadow can bring ample opportunity for insight and therefore personal power. So have a crack at it with your loving and compassionate heart and listen up to it. It could be a game changer. Note down any insights that you have from doing that work, or others in relation to any other emotional management work that you do, and have an awesome couple of days or a week just playing in the shadows. Go do it.